Good evening. I'm the Maven of the Eventide, and do I even have to tell you what time it is again? We're in the lair. What do we do here? Collect giant stacks of vampire books we could never possibly ever read all of. No, we do read them. We read them in the Vampire Book Club, which happens once a month on this channel in a live stream. If you were unaware of this, check out the live stream section of this channel. They're all right there. We've been doing the Vampire Book Club for a couple years now. We have read a couple years worth of vampire books. We read one vampire book every month, and you should join us. You can participate daily in the Vampire Book Club by joining my Discord server. The link is in the description, as is a list of all the books that are in all of my library videos. Did you know I make lists for you? All of these books that I talk about are in a list, so you don't have to scribble down and take notes and rewatch my video 10 times to get them all. Though it'd be good if you did, because the algorithm. Shh. If you speak of the algorithm too loudly, it will turn against you. Or so. I do have more vampire books than I could ever possibly read. Surrounding me, I made a fort. A book fort. But one of my greatest pleasures is sharing these vampire books with you. And I have a giant stack here. They go all the way down to the ground of books and things. I have vampire things, too. Memorabilia, merchandise. I collect vampire tchotchkes, and I will share them all with you. And if there's a link to where you can buy them, I will put them in the list that is in the description. I found out that these storefront lists I make have a limit of 400 things on them, and I have shared so many things with you that I now have 3 separate lists of stuff. So click them, shop, do the thing. Buy vampire books. As always, I have stacked them in order of size so the tower does not topple over and kill me. I have so many bruises. But that often means we get the kind of obscure ones on top, all these little mass market paperbacks that people will sort of find at used bookstores or have lying around their homes and sent to my P.O. box. For instance, this book is A Tale of the Thunderbolt, book 3 of the Vampire Earth, E.E. Knight. I don't think I have books 1 and 2 of the Vampire Earth. So this is one of those books that now I have to get the other ones. Poor me, more vampire books. I'm not going to read the description of this because it might have spoilers for books 1 and 2, but if you have heard of Tale of the Thunderbolt, book 3, and if you haven't, it exists. From what I can tell, it is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi novel. We got a lot of spaceship-y stuff going on here. He's got a gun, so sort of far future sci-fi vampires. Speaking of which, this is Area 51, Nosferatu, by Robert Doherty, who is the best-selling author of Area 51. No Nosferatu, just Area 51. So he wrote Area 51 and Area 51 Nosferatu. From the dark shadows of the past creeps a new terror. So I don't know if this is a sequel to Area 51 or if he just wrote... Oh, yes, okay. So don't miss these other outstanding Area 51 books. There's Area 51 The Reply, The Mission, The Sphinx, The Grail, Excalibur, The Truth, and Nosferatu. So it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in a series, or they're all standalone books about Area 51, which, if you're unfamiliar with, it's where the conspiracy theorists think that the government is hiding spaceships that landed on Earth in Roswell. The shadows of history are their home. The blood of humans is their sustenance. Now the future belongs to them. Began at the dawn of history, when a darkness rose from deep within an Egyptian tomb. For thousands of years, long before Earth was plunged into an intergalactic battle for its survival, I guess that's what's going on in the other Area 51 books, 4 deathless creatures sowed seeds of destruction and chaos. Surviving on the spilled blood of warriors and innocents from ancient Greece to the ashes of Nazi Germany, the creatures have played a role in the conflicts great and small. Now, bound by their common ancestry, separated by their own devious ambitions, and armed with mankind's own modern tools of destruction, the Deathless Ones know that their time has come, and they have been called together by one brilliant leader. His name is Nosferatu. His vision is to become a god on Earth. His ultimate weapon will be a holy grail, a force that no mortal can defeat, but his deadliest enemy may be one of his own. Ooh, vampire versus vampire drama. Love it. So I don't know that the Deathless Ones are vampires, that they do drink spilled blood, so maybe, I don't know if the Deathless Ones are the ones in the other Area 51 novels, or if they're new creations for them. I don't know anything, do I? It's intriguing. I'm intrigued. If this is part of a series and I have to read the other books first, Please tell me. I would like to know that. Leave me a comment and tell me. Thank you. Thirsty by M.T. Anderson, the author of Feed, a National Book Award finalist. I've never heard of this book. It's got a pair of plastic vampire fangs on it, which leads me to believe it's probably humorous. When Dance of the Vampires, the musical, came out on Broadway, its poster on Broadway had plastic vampire fangs as a way to let people know that this is not a serious vampire musical and you're here to have fun. Yet for some reason, everyone went to it and were like, what? This isn't a serious vampire musical. They're being silly on stage, and it bombed and everyone hated it. Fools, it was amazing. But this book is from 1997, long before that. All Chris really wants is to be a normal kid, to hang out with his friends, avoid his parents, and get a date with Rebecca Schwartz. Her last name is Schwartz, which means black. She must be mysterious. Unfortunately, Chris appears to be turning into a vampire. That's it. That is the entire description. Well, it sounds like a young adult novel, but from the era before young adult was actually like its own genre thing category. Yep. It just starts right off. First line is, in the spring, there are vampires in the wind. So metaphorical. I'm intrigued. Kirkus says a startling, savagely funny debut. I like savagely funny things. Vampire Captives by Kestra Pingree. It is From Blood to Ashes, Book 1. From the cover, it looks kind of like a high fantasy novel. Kill him? I could have done that. Couple with him like hell. I'm a slayer. One of Silver Hollow's greatest warriors. I carry my fellow vampires with honor and carve out werewolves' unsuspecting hearts. Oh, so she's a vampire, but she's a werewolf slayer. Cool. Or I did. I tend to ask forgiveness instead of permission, and my body count didn't save me this time. Our queen stripped me of my rank, my purpose. She commanded I become a vessel meant to bear vampire young. Ew. And the male I've been assigned is trouble. We have undeniable chemistry, but Ando Weiss would sooner kill me than follow our queen's orders. The feeling is mutual. Unfortunately, Ando is no ally. He's another enemy. If I don't play his game and free him from Silver Hollow, he'll make sure this ends in my death. Unless I win and reclaim my Slayer rank. I have everything to lose. He has everything to gain. Okay, so this sounds like it could be a romance novel, a hate-to-love romance novel, enemies to lovers, or it could be a just fantasy novel that has that sort of breeding kink romance in the background. Is it a fantasy with romance, or is it a romance with fantasy, or is there no romance? Do they actually stay enemies? Is it not enemies to lovers? Is it just enemies to enemies, and she actually defeats the jerk guy and he doesn't wind up turning soft for her? Either way, we know she is a strong, independent woman and she don't need no man. Mina and the Slayers by Amy McCaw. This is the sequel to Mina and the Undead, which I told you about previously. I am not going to read you the summary on the sequel because I don't want to spoil the first one for you if you haven't read it, but it takes place in New Orleans in 1995, and it's Halloween time. I like that the cover of these books have these stickers on it to make them look like old VHS tapes. Very retro 1990s. You see Mina is wearing a plaid oversized button-down shirt over a mini skirt, as we did in the 90s. On this book, she's alone. On this cover, she's got friends, and I'm assuming those are the titular Slayers. I love a book that has fancy titles, and look, it's got these black rims around the edge, this sort of halo effect. It's so pretty. Black edges. Bats. The Hollowed Ones and the Outside by Laura Bickle. This is book 1 and 2 in the series. Actually, I don't think it's a series. I think it's just one book and a sequel. If your home was the last safe place on earth, would you let a stranger in? Katie is on the verge of her Rumspringa, the time in Amish life when teenagers are free to experience non-Amish culture before officially joining the church. But before Rumspringa arrives, Katie's safe world starts to crumble. It begins with a fiery helicopter crash in the cornfields, followed by rumors of massive unrest and the disappearance of huge numbers of people all over the world. Something is out there, and it is making a killing. Unsure why they haven't yet been attacked, the Amish elders make a decree. No one goes outside their community, and no one is allowed in. But when Katie finds a gravely injured young man lying just outside the boundary of their land, she can't leave him to die. She refuses to submit to the elders' rule and secretly brings a stranger into her community. But what else is she bringing with him? Kind of sounds like the plot of an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Intrigued. I have never read any books about Amish people and vampires. I know this isn't the only one, but Amish plus vampires is an ironic combination. Cool. I don't know if this is actually a Christian book made like to appeal to Christians, or if it's just a book about Christian people and vampires in a, subversive way. I don't know. The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling, author of These Witches Don't Burn, if you know that book. Death threw them together. Life could tear them apart. We have a picture of two girls. This one is obviously a vampire with her fangs. This one is question mark, but they are touching their fingers, and there's like a glowing light here. Someone has the coldest touch. You'd assume it was the vampire, but you could be wrong. They look like they're in love, so maybe a teenage romance book. Elise Beaumont is cursed. With every touch, she experiences exactly how her loved ones will die. And after her brother's death, a death she predicted but was unable to prevent, Elise is desperate to get rid of her terrible gift, no matter the cost. Claire Montgomery also has a unique relationship with death, mostly because she's already dead. Technically, anyway. Claire is a vampire, and she's been assigned by the Veil to help Elise master her Death Oracle powers. At first, Elise is reluctant to work with a vampire, but when she predicts the teacher's imminent murder, she's determined to stop the violent death, even if it means sacrificing her own future to secure Claire's help. The trouble is, Claire and Elise aren't the only paranormals in town. A killer is stalking the streets, and Claire can't seem to shake the pull she feels toward Elise, a romance that could upend the Veil's mission. But as Elise and Claire grow closer, Elise begins to wonder, can she really trust someone tasked with securing her loyalty? Someone who could so easily kill her? Someone who might hold the key to unraveling her brother's mysterious death? Another forbidden romance between a vampire and a, not normie, but a death oracle. Cool twist. Love me some teenage lesbian vampire romance. Classic, goes all the way back to Carmilla before Dracula even existed. Revelations by Bella Higgin. This is... Apparently we're having an extreme weather alert. I think that was thunder I just heard. Sounded like a gunshot. I'm digging it, but should I be concerned? Should I keep filming? It's not raining yet. I didn't even see any lightning. Wow. It sounded like an explosion. Let's try again. Revelations by Bella Higgin. This is a Belmort novel, which I talked to you before about Belmort, so this is book 2. I don't know if it's a series or if it's just a 2-book thing. I'm not going to read you the summary of Revelations because I don't want to spoil the first one for you. But as you will recall, when we talked about this, it is a Wattpad novel, and now book 2 is out. There's a little quote on the back. Probing my teeth with my tongue, I flinched at the sharp points of fangs. I'd been aware of these changes, but in an abstract sort of way. Thunder is really loud. Now the reality of this was hitting me like a hammer to the brain. I'd become the very thing I'd once feared. Well, I feel like that's kind of a spoiler for what happens during the first book, but it was telegraphed. We knew that was going to happen to her. It always happens. Of course, she becomes the vampire. Young adult books about glamours of vampire society where humans are used as blood donors for them. And of course, we have a forbidden love romance, etc., etc. Everything you want in a teenage vampire book. The Court of Undying Seasons by A.M. Strickland. This is a brand new book, just came out this year. Is the storm directly outside? Can you hear that? We're fine. We're fine. In becoming a vampire, I'm less than a girl, and more. Or maybe I'm becoming what I always have been, deep inside, a blade. When 19-year-old Finn volunteers to take her secret love's place in their village finding, capital F, she's terrified. Those who are chosen at the finding are whisked away to Castle Quartzheart, a vampire school where human students succeed and become vampires, or fail and spend the rest of their lives as human thralls. Or they don't survive long enough to become either. Finn is determined to forge a different path, learn how to kill the undead and get revenge for her mother who was taken by the vampires years ago. But Quartzheart is as captivating as it is deadly, and Finn is quickly swept up in her new world and its inhabitants, particularly Gavron, her handsome and hostile vampire maker, whose blood is nothing short of intoxicating. As Finn begins to discover new aspects of her own identity and test her newfound powers, she stumbles across a string of murders that may be connected to a larger ritual, one with potentially lethal consequences for vampires and humans alike. Finn must uncover the truth and find the killer before she loses her life or betrays her own heart. Oh, we got a love triangle. She sacrifices herself for a secret love and then falls in love with someone else. Love it. Oh, it's got a content warning. Some of the thematic material in Court of the Undying Seasons involves child neglect and abuse, issues of consent, violence, including blood drinking and murder, and substance use. For a more detailed description of sensitive content, please visit their website. Oh, okay, first of all, she dedicates the book to her mom, to my mama, Deanna, for showing me the strength of a mother's love, and for failing to notice when I read Interview with the Vampire far too young. And then under that, it says, R.I.P. Anne Rice. Thank you for helping me realize how delightfully weird I am. Oh, me too, A.M. Strickland. Me too. Ooh, all the courts in the Undying Houses have coats of arms. Cool. Knight's Edge by Liz Caron. This one's a killer. Brilliant. Fascinating. There's some blurbs. Having a mom like Izzy meant Mia had to grow up fast. No extracurriculars, no inviting friends over, and definitely no dating. The most important rule, tell no one of Izzy's hunger. The one only blood can satisfy. But Mia is in her 20s now and longs for a life of her own, one where she doesn't have to worry about anyone discovering their terrible secret or breathing down her neck. When Mia meets rebellious musician Jade, she dares to hope she's found a way to leave her home and her mom behind. It just might be Mia's only chance of getting out alive. Knight's Edge is a sun-drenched novel about the darkest secrets we hide and how monstrous we can be to the ones we love most. I wonder if Jade is a romance. Is this another gay book? Yes, please. Since she is 20 years old in this, I don't know that is a young adult book. It might just be a book about an adult. No clue on the inside. Usually young adult books have people younger than 20, so my guess is an adult book. A copy of Women Eating by Claire Cotto, which I talked to you about last time. I already have this book, but I had the paperback, and now I have the hardcover. Isn't this hardcover pretty? This book is really cool, so I'm going to read you this summary again in case you forgot from last time. Lydia is hungry. She's always wanted to try Japanese food. Sashimi, ramen, onigiri with sour plums stuffed inside, the food her Japanese father liked to eat. And then there is bubble tea, and iced coffee, ice cream, and cake, foraged herbs and plants, and the vegetables grown by the other young artists in the London studio space she is secretly squatting in. But Lydia can't eat any of these things. Her body doesn't work like those of other people. The only thing she can digest is blood. And it turns out that sourcing fresh pig blood in London, where she's living away from her vampire mother for the first time, is much more difficult than she'd anticipated. Then there are the humans, the other artists at the studio space, the people at the gallery she interns at, and the strange men that follow her after dark. And Ben, a boyish, goofy-grinned artist she's developing feelings for. Lydia knows that they are her natural prey, but she can't bring herself to feed on them. In her windowless studio, where she paints and studies the work of other artists and binge-watches Buffy the Vampire Slayer and videos of people eating food on YouTube and Instagram, Lydia considers her place in the world. She has many of the things humans wish for. Perpetual youth, near invulnerability, immortality, but she is miserable. She is lonely, and she is hungry. Always hungry. As Lydia develops as a woman and an artist, she will learn that she must reconcile the conflicts within her, between her demon and human side, her mixed ethnic heritage, and her relationship with food, and in turn, humans. If she is to find a way to exist in the world, before any of this, however, she must eat. Woman eating. What I like about this is it sounds like a literary novel. It sounds like it doesn't really have any plot. It's just about this person who's kind of like plodding along and trying to find out the meaning of life. Very literary, but with vampires. Yes. Bloodright by Peter Tremaine. Memoirs of Mercia, son to Dracula. Mercia. That's an interesting name. This is from 1977. It is an old one. I had always thought that Dr. John Seward and his colleague Van Helsing had been fictional characters, figments of the imagination of Bram Stoker. Now, here I was holding a bundle of papers described as coming from the estate of the late John Seward, M.D., an entire manuscript written by Van Helsing himself. Thus begins Peter Tremaine's account of the discovery of the memoirs of the innocent, engaging, and cursed youngest son of the dread Vlad Tepes, better known by the name that sends a chill through everyone who hears it, Dracula. So, I don't know if he's just a descendant of the actual historical person Vlad, or if Vlad is also supposed to be Dracula. like the actual vampire. He was not actually a vampire. He was just a person with some interesting hobbies. The story Tremaine unearthed in a London street market just a few years ago is as terrifying today as it was in 1480 when Mercia, the Count's son, set it on paper. It lay for centuries until Abraham Van Helsing discovered it in 1898 in a monastery in northern Russia and translated it to English. Lost again for nearly 100 years, it came into the hands of Tremaine, who now brings evil undead from the grave once more. Tremaine being the author, so this author is pretending that this is a true story of an actual historical document he found of Dracula's son. And I don't know that Vlad Dracul actually had a son with this name, if this is historically accurate. I'm very curious. I'm intrigued. Hello? Hey, I'm filming. Uh-huh. Oh no, that thunder sounded like an explosion. I thought like a plane blew up out there or something. Okay. I got my eye on it. Okay. Love you. Apparently there's a tornado warning too. Paul thinks I should stop filming and go like hunker in the safe spot in our house, but I think I'll be fine. Wow. It's rain. Oh my god. We're fine. We like bad weather on vampire reviews, right? It's our thing. Speaking of Dracula. Oh god. It's ambiance, right? You can't hear that. It's a directional microphone. It's just ambiance. Speaking of Dracula, we have Covenant of the Vampire by Jean Calogridis, the Diaries of the Family Dracul, and its two sequels. These are former library books. They have the library binding and the plastic on the cover. That's why they're so shiny. So what is the first one about? In her incredibly accomplished fiction debut, Jean Calogridis takes on one of the most compelling and terrifying classics ever written, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Oh, I'm glad someone's finally taking that on. Dark, sensual, and charged with suspense, A Covenant with the Vampire reveals the mysteries behind Dracula, transforming it into a piece of a puzzle that is much larger, more complex, and more compelling than anyone might have imagined. Beginning 50 years before the start of Bram Stoker's novel, Covenant with the Vampire introduces us to the Dracula's family, who are bound by a covenant as ancient as their blood to serve Dracula and to protect him. At the castle of Prince Vlad Tepes, also known as Dracula. Okay, I guess we're going with that again. Vlad's great-nephew, Arkady, has recently taken over the job of managing the thriving, busy estate. Arkady is honored to care for his beloved, though eccentric, great-uncle until he begins to realize what is expected of him in his new role. Either he provides his great-uncle with victims to satisfy his needs, or Vlad will kill those Arkady loves. Well, that was your problem for loving people in the first place. See how much easier it is when you live in a lair alone? He is trapped into becoming a party to murder and sadistic torture, and it is in his blood. When Arkady learns that his newborn son is being groomed to follow one day in his footsteps, he knows that he must fight Dracula, even if it means his death. The first installment in a rich historical trilogy that will span the 50 years before Dracula and finally overlap with the events in that book. Covenant with the Vampire reveals secrets that will shock and delight readers of the original. Written in diary form, like Dracula, Covenant with the Vampire is the erotic, compulsively readable debut of a major new voice in vampire fiction. When was this new and major? When did this come out? 1994. So, the very early years of the vampire boom. Came out the same year as the movie Interview with the Vampire. Fortunate timing for her. She obviously wrote it well before that movie came out, so she couldn't have planned it, but, good. Book 2 is Children of the Vampire, and book 3 is Lord of the Vampires. Oh, I see the progression there, grow up, become the Lord. Obviously, they don't succeed in fully stopping Dracula, as the book Dracula also takes place 50 years after the start, so I'm guessing, there's some sort of level of dark, bitter failure there, but maybe he gets away and his son is okay. Sucker, a novel by Daniel Hornsby. Exceptional, horrifically hilarious, and deeply original. Another brand new book just came out this year. Bad Blood meets Succession in the sharp-toothed satire of Silicon Valley and the 1%. Chuck Gross would like nothing more than to prune himself from his family tree. He's already clipped his name, turning Charles Grosshart Jr., son of billionaire labor exploiter, weapons manufacturer, and climate change denier, into ordinary good guy Chuck, the self-made proprietor of an up-and-coming punk label. But when Daddy threatens to cut him off, Chuck is forced to get a real job. And conveniently, an old college friend has just swept back into his life with the perfect opportunity. Famed Harvard dropout and biotech darling Olivia Watts says she is on the verge of totally reinventing the field of medicine. But when Chuck signs on, he soon discovers that things at the vast Kenosis campus are not quite how they appear. Secret labs, vanished employees, and mutated test subjects seem to be as impossible as they are sinister. Is Olivia simply a scammer, or does her technology threaten to usher humanity toward a far bloodier fate? Moreover, does Chuck, who has never accomplished anything without the aid of Daddy's money, stand a chance of stopping her? Daniel Hornsby hilariously skewers the insatiable hungers of the ultra-rich in a novel that no one will be able to resist sinking their teeth into. That sounds like tons of fun! I love anything that goes after the 1%, because they are the true vampires. Cool! I'm putting this up in line for Vampire Book Club. Come read it with us. Join the Discord server, link is in the description. A Taste for Blood, edited by Martin H. Greensburg. This is an anthology of vampire stories. 15 great vampire tales. We got Clive Barker, Robert Bloch, Sheridan Le Fanu, so I guess Carmilla's in here, H.B. Cave, Tanith Lee, H.P. Lovecraft, and others. H.P. Lovecraft did not write any vampire stories that are actually vampires. Some of his are like vampire-ish, but I guess that this book is playing fast and loose with the technical definition of vampires. Yeah, the first thing in here is Carmilla. The Shunned House is the H.P. Lovecraft one. There's a story in here called Midnight Mass by F. Paul Wilson. Clive Barker's is Son of Celluloid, and the others are not ones that I have heard of before. For 15 stories, it is a thick book, so I'm guessing they are very hefty stories, like Carmilla is a novella, not an actual short story. Came out in 1992. A Taste for Blood is a testament to the long and illustrious history of one of fiction's most durable monsters, the vampire. Spanning over 100 years, the stories in A Taste for Blood place the vampire in a time scale which extends from the Middle Ages to an indeterminate future and follows an itinerary that includes New England, Europe, Africa, and the planet Venus. From J. Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla, written in the early 1870s, to 25 years before Bram Stoker's Dracula, to Son of Celluloid by Clive Barker's dissection of an infinitely consumable world, A Taste for Blood presents more than a century of vampire fiction. Well, yeah, if you have, like, a modern book with modern authors and then you pop Carmilla in there, it's going to be more than a century of vampire fiction. Then it goes on to describe a few more of the stories. But yeah, there's some cool stuff in here that I've never heard of. Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker, another new book that just came out this year. We got a white picket fence with some vampire blood on one of the fangs. That is a very evocative cover. Children can really bleed you dry. Darby feels like the past 5 years of her life have been devoted to nothing but her children. She isn't sure she can take one more spilled sippy cup or wild tantrum. She and her best mommy friends, Mary Beth and Ray, are on personal quests to reclaim aspects of their identities subsumed by motherhood, their careers, their sex lives, and their bodies. Their children, though, disrupt their plans when, along with the usual sniffles and colds, an unsettling medical condition begins to go around the little academy preschool. The kids are craving blood. Then a teacher is found dead, and the only potential witnesses are 10 adorable, sweet, gap-toothed, blood-sucking 4-year-olds. Soon it becomes clear that the children are not just witnesses to the death, but also suspects. And so are their secret-keeping mothers. As the police begin to look more closely, the children's ability to bleed their parents dry becomes deadly serious. Part murder mystery, part motherhood manifesto, Cutting Teeth explores the standards society holds mothers to, along with the ones to which they hold themselves. And the things no one tells you about becoming a parent. So right off the bat there, it sounds a lot like Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which is pretty good and depicted the mothers and housewives very well. But this one's actually written by a woman. So I'm excited to see her take on the motherhood vampire metaphor. And we have one movie to add to the mix today. This is Sweethearts of Vampire Hunters, 5 Heroes, A Coven of Vampires, A Lot of Bad Blood. This is a 2002 movie. Hong Kong action thrills in the vein of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, movie from China. In 19th century China, an evil monk awakens a nest of ghoulish vampires hell-bent on devouring human life. Now, a quartet of heroes trained in the Taoist Mao Shan School of Magic and their master must use their unique powers to destroy the Vampire King and his lethal coven before it's too late. Masters of the martial arts, each of the 4 students specializes in controlling the element of his namesake. Rain, lightning, thunder, and wind. Ooh, they are a storm when their powers combined. From critically acclaimed Hong Kong filmmaker Tsui Hark, who made Black Mass 2, Time and Tide, Double Team, Tsui Hark's Vampire Hunters is an action-packed thrill ride destined to become a martial arts horror classic. Well, considering it came out in 2002 and I've never heard of it, I don't know that it has become a martial arts horror classic. But I love genre mashups, so give me a horror vampire martial arts film. Sounds like a lot of fun. Oh, where did these come from? Just kidding. There's a whole big stack down there. Now this is really cool. This is Tarot of the Vampires, which is a tarot deck and includes a companion book. This is author Charles Harrington, artist Craig Marr, and this was sent to me by the author's publicist, who also introduced me to the author, who gave me a tarot reading with this deck, and I recorded it, and I'm going to share that video with you too. So you get to see a lot more information about this tarot deck when I put that video up. Look out for it. It's very cool. Vampire-themed tarot deck. The cool thing about this is it's not focusing on like old-fashioned Victorian glamorous vampires. It's focusing on a really modern idea of the vampires. Sink your fangs into the mysteries of life and seek out your darkest desires. This thrilling deck resurrects vampire archetypes for a new age. These children of the night are modern, nuanced, and deadly creatures who will inspire you to unearth forgotten treasures within yourself. Craig Marr's illustrations explore the themes of power, conflict, romance, and adventure. Woven throughout the cards is the eternal human story told through the eyes of vampires, and the companion book by Charles Harrington reveals how their journey gives you new insights into the cards. This Rider-Waite-Smith-based deck opens your eyes to the wonders of life, death, and what it's like to move through the world as an outsider. Illustrations are really cool, but the way that the vampires are tied together through all the tarot symbolism is really cool. And I'm not going to tell you anything more about it now because I made a whole video about it, so look out for that. A very cool copy of Dracula by Signature Classics. I like the black end papers, the red cover underneath. I have a couple other Signature Classics book that this one matches. I don't have the full like gothic set like Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde, Dorian Gray, and all of those, but this is a nice way to start. What quote did they put on the back? "Take care," he said. "Take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country." I've never really put that much thought into the depth of that quote. You've got a point, Dust Jacket. And we got some non-fiction books. The Science of Vampires by Kathleen Ramsland, Ph.D., author of The Forensic Science of CSI, but who you would better know as author of The Vampire Companion and The Witch's Companion, the official guide to Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles and Anne Rice's Lives of the Mayfair Witches series. These are huge books. She worked hand in hand with Anne Rice to create these books. This book is from 1995, so it only includes up through Memnoth the Devil, but it's still like full of very cool information and some mistakes. One of these days I'm going to do an annotated version of this book, correcting all the mistakes in the margins. This and the alphabetary. Don't get me started on the alphabetary. So what has the amazing Kathleen Ramsland have in store for us now? Are any vampire myths based on fact? Blood-sucking villain to guilt-ridden loner. What has inspired the redemption of the vampire in fiction and film? What is vampire personality disorder? What causes a physical addiction to another person's blood? Are there any boundaries in the polysexual world of vampires? How could a vampire hide in today's world of advanced forensic science? What happens in the brain of a vampire's victim? Since Bram Stoker's Dracula was published in 1897, the concept of the vampire has evolved from supernatural creature of the night to reluctant bloodsucker to the sympathetic vampire of today's popular culture. Featuring interviews with forensic experts, creative artists, and real-life bloodsuckers, The Science of Vampires offers a fascinating investigation into the myths and realities of the vampire, exploring every aspect of the dark force that has played host to our fears of infections, depletions, alien influence, and disease. From vampirism's roots in ancient legend through its postmodern redefinition in contemporary films and novels, to its scientific evaluation as a very real mental disorder, Ramsland proves just how immortal, enigmatic, and seductive the lure of blood can be. Did it really need proving? A History of Vampires in New England by Thomas D'Agostino. When medical science failed to provide a cure, superstition created a fear that gripped New England for over 100 years. New England is rich in history and mystery. Numerous sleepy little towns and farming communities distinguish the region's scenic tranquility. But not long ago, New Englanders lived in a fear of spectral ghouls believed to rise from their graves and visit family members in the night to suck their lives away. Although the word vampire was never spoken, scores of family disinterred loved ones during the 18th and 19th centuries, searching for telltale signs that one of them might be what is now referred to as the New England vampire. So did you know that America has a history of vampire panic? That was one thing that I found out, surprisingly late in my career as a vampire scholar. A lot of cool photographs in here. This came out in 2010 from the Haunted America book series. Vampire History and Lore by Stuart A. Callan from the Vampire Library. What other books are in the Vampire Library? Is there a whole library of these books? From Reference Point Press. I gotta look this up. Throughout the whole vast shadowy world of ghosts and demons, Montague Summers wrote in his 1928 book, Vampire, His Kith and Kin, there is no figure so terrible, no figure so dreaded and abhorred, yet dight, which means adorned, with such fearful fascination as the vampire. The fearful fascination that Summer refers to has not waned. In fact, vampire lore abounds in books and movies, in history and in contemporary life. And today's teens are among the driving forces of what could be called vampire mania. Today's teens. When did this come out? Is this during the Twilight craze? When are today's teens? 2011. Yep, height of the Twilight craze. The Vampire Library examines the world of vampires from a variety of perspectives, including history, contemporary life, literature, and film. Lively narrative, personal accounts from the past and present, and strange facts will appeal to casual readers and student researchers alike. Source notes, a bibliography for future research, and index provide additional tools for readers and report writers. Other titles in the series: Encounters with Vampires, Vampires, Do They Exist? Vampires in Literature, Vampires in the Movies. Oh, this sounds like a really cute little series. It sounds like it was definitely trying to be a quick cash-in grab on the Twilight craze, so I don't know how well-written or well-researched it is, if someone just slapped together some vampire books and quick, let's make some money, or if they actually are good references at all. I have to read it to find out. Vampire History and Lore. It's got a picture of Vlad, our friend, on the cover here, so we know where this one's going. Vampires by Nancy Garden, which is part of the Weird and Horrible Library. Terrifying Tales of the Undead. There's a Weird and Horrible library. Where are all these libraries that I'm missing out on? When did this come out? Looks older. 1973. Way before my time. Vampires. Dead, but refusing to depart this life, they lie in their graves by day and stalk their victims at night in search of one more cup of human blood. Don't let it be yours. How to ward off a vampire. Will garlic really do the trick? Are you safe with a cross under your pillow? Delaying tactics that seem to work. Scattering grain and thorny branches on the vampire's path. Vampire disposal. How to find a vampire's grave. Is burning a corpse a foolproof method of destruction? The surefire method, a stake through the heart. Warning, vampires always sleep with their eyes open. If you're going to destroy one, do the job right the first time. So I guess this is sort of a how-to guide on vampires if they were real, how to handle them and take care of yourself. It's got some cool classic art illustrations in here. Oh, here we go. Don't miss this other chiller from the Weird and Horrible Library. Werewolves. That's it. Were vampires and werewolves the only ones in the Weird and Horrible Library? There's so many other weird and horrible things out there. Maybe this was the beginning of it and it expanded. 1973. Vampira, Dark Goddess of Horror by W. Scott Poole. Vampira, the celebrity. The proto-Elvira, who also based her look on Morticia Addams. I guess this is a biography of some kind. Doesn't really have a summary, it just has some praise on the back. Scott Poole has the chops, the Hollywood savvy, and the horror genre's insider smarts to write a killer book on Vampira. I'll be the first in line to grab a copy. Oh, so you didn't even actually read the book. Horror hostess, bondage goddess, Charles Addams cartoon come to life. Vampira was every first-generation fanboy's wet dream. Scott Poole takes us on an unforgettable ride through the overlapping underworlds of B+D magazine, Hollywood noir, and early political liberation movements that inspired actress Molly Nurmi to challenge a post-war culture bent on stifling women's choices, bodies, and desires. This book is a subversive masterpiece. I actually don't know that much about Vampira at all. She's not been someone that I've ever read into, so thank you for this. I'm very interested to learn more about her. I don't know that Vampira was actually supposed to be a vampire. She, like Morticia Addams or Elvira, not actually a vampire of any kind, just, kind of vampy and sexy. Or did she actually, drink blood and have fangs and stuff? I don't even know that much. Drawing Dracula by Greg Rosa. Drawing movie monsters, step by step. I want to learn how to draw Dracula. This is just it's got, Bela Lugosi in here, and it just tells you step by step how to draw him. I don't really know how to draw anyone, much less Dracula, but hey, I'll take these sort of diagram shortcuts. Thank you. So you can draw Christopher Lee getting staked. Got some monster fun facts in the back. You can draw Dracula summoning Van Helsing with his hand out. There's a lot of cool Dracula poses that you can draw in here. Film Magazine's March 2023 edition, 25 Greatest Vampire Movies Ever. We've got an exclusive on Renfield. Nicolas Cage sinks his teeth into it. Anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing, he says. Cool, I loved Renfield, the movie. I want to read the exclusive. What are the 25 greatest vampire films ever? I feel like we just read another magazine that had the 25 greatest vampire films ever. Maybe it was just 20. Oh no, this is the 25 greatest vampires of all time. All right, here we go. So we got Catherine Conklin in The Addiction, 1995. Selma Hayek as Santico Pandemonium in Dusk Till Dawn, 1996. Edward Cullen made the list. Shh. Elizabeth Bathory from Daughters of Darkness, 1970. Viago! I love What We Do in the Shadows. I'm very happy he's on here. Anna in Habit, 1995. I don't know that movie at all. Martin in Martin, 1997. We discussed that before. He wasn't really a vampire, though. I don't know that he belongs on this list. Marguerite Chopin from Vampire, 1932. Old movie. I need to watch that. Miriam Baylock from The Hunger. Yes, she belongs on this list. The Girl from A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Adam and Eve from Only Lovers Left Alive. They're both on the list. I guess they're equally good. They were good vampires. Gary Oldman version of Dracula. Nadja, not from What We Do in the Shadows, Nadja from the movie Nadja, 1994. Dr. Hess Scream from Ganja and Hess, 1973. Have you seen that one? Jerry Dandridge from the original Fright Night, played by Chris Sarandon. We talked about that as well. Yes, he was a good vampire. Jesus Gris from Kronos. I don't know if he was that great. He was a good movie. He was a good character, but I wouldn't call him a great vampire. He was kind of a terrible vampire. Song Hyun from Thirst, 2009. Blade from Blade. I guess he's a cool vampire. If you're going to say he counts as a vampire, he's a good one. Severin from Near Dark. That's a Bill Paxton character. Classic. Ellie from Let the Right One In. The movie version, the Swedish movie version. I'd say the book version. I don't know about the movie version, though. Bela Lugosi's version of Dracula is number 5. Lestat is number 4. Let's see who's higher than Lestat. That's my question. Kiefer Sutherland as David in A Lost Boys. Really? He's a better vampire than Lestat? Christopher Lee's Dracula is number 2. And Max Schreck's Count Orlok is number 1. Well, you know what I think is cool is that Bela Lugosi's Dracula and Gary Oldman's Dracula weren't put above Lestat. I disagree with David, but of course they're going to put like classic Draculas as number 1 and 2. People get mad if they didn't. If I made this list, you know Lestat would be at the top, but everyone would be like, well, she's biased. Yes, I am. This is a really cute book that I picked up at the store. It is My Spooktacular Halloween Library. It's got 18 books inside, and it's this huge like fold-out thing you can hang up on your wall for children, obviously. And the books inside are just these little like pamphlet things, but there's ghosts, vampires, and there's a bunch of like stickers and activities, and I just thought it was really cute. Yes, I'm going to let the fledgling spawn have it, but I had to share it with you first. Halloween is coming up. The stores are all full of all the Halloween goodies now. You have to shop now. Get your Halloweenies, because if you go in like September, they'll all be sold out. Get them while you can. A hardback copy of Pandora that you sent me. Thank you. I already have this book, but I can always use another. You know, the good thing about having 2 copies of the same book is you can have one that you can loan to friends without being like, my precious, don't wrinkle my book. Pandora is a fun little book. I love this book when I was a kid and got it for the first time just because it's like small and cute, and I love a small, cute book. It's a quick read. You can read it in a day. Pandora is a fun vampire. I picked these copies up when I was at a used bookstore. They're very good condition first editions of Queen of the Damned and Tale of the Body Thief by Anne Rice, which of course I already have, but these were like pristine, so I had to grab them. And now we're on to the books you sent me that are gothy or creepy or tangentially connected to vampires in some way, but aren't actually vampire books. We have room for them in the Vampire Library. Yes, we do. Speaking of Anne Rice, this is her autobiography, the one book about herself that she wrote herself. Called Out of Darkness, a spiritual confession. She wrote this book when she decided she was going to give up writing vampires entirely. She was going to give up writing about anything evil and just write about things that she thought God would like. Don't worry, she got better. But this is her book sort of explaining why and how and what her brain was going on at the time, which I've always been curious about. So now I will understand her brain better. This one is Anne Rice, A Critical Companion by Jennifer Smith, Critical Companions to Popular Contemporary Writers. This is one person's, Jennifer Smith's, ideas of how you should interpret Anne Rice's works. So I don't know how good it is and how much I'm going to agree with it, but I wanted to see what she had to say. Anne Rice's fame rests in her supernatural tales, but she is far more than a horror novelist. She goes beyond the genre by changing the classic horror stories into myths, fairy tales, and nightmares in order to explore philosophical questions of life, death, evil, and the meaning of existence. This is the most up-to-date analysis of her work and includes individual chapters on each of her vampire, mummy, and witch novels, including Memnoch the Devil, 1995. So I guess that's when this came out, if it was the most up-to-date. A perfect companion for students and Anne Rice fans. This study also features a biographical chapter which discusses her use of the supernatural, gothic, horror, and fantasy genres. Smith shows how Rice's 5 vampire novels interweave to form a complete mythology, a layered universe with its own history and rules in which her characters act out the question of what it means to be human in an increasingly inhuman world. In the 3 Witches Chronicles, Smith shows how Rice explores the meaning of power, sexuality, family, and womanhood in the 20th century. Each novel is examined in a separate chapter with its subsections on point of view, plot, character, theme, and literary device. Each novel is also examined from an alternative critical approach, such as psychological, myth, and feminist criticism, which offers the reader an alternative perspective from which to read the novel. A complete bibliography of Anne Rice's work, general criticism and biographical sources, and listings of reviews of each novel complete the work. For fans and students, this is the perfect companion to Anne Rice's fiction. So you say. I shall judge if it is the perfect companion or not. A very pretty copy of Frankenstein, illustrated by William Connor. I love illustrated versions of classic novels. Let's see some pictures. Looks like it's got a lot of little tiny pictures along the way. Oh, here we go. Black and white pencil drawings. The Old Man, Chateau. Ooh, that's a good one. Any other big color ones like that? Oh no, she's dead. It's gorgeous. I love it. What does the monster look like? Give us his face. Oh, yeah! That's him on his, Arctic tundra trek with his sled dogs and his, cool outfit. I love it! He kind of looks like the Phantom of the Opera with the way his face is drawn. I love it so much. Thank you! This is really cool. This is Belphegor, also known as The Phantom of the Louvre by Arthur Bernard, and this translated by Chris Amies. This is a novel that came out after Phantom of the Opera came out, when people were like, oh, well, phantoms are the cool new thing. Now I'm going to write a phantom novel. There's a ghost in the Louvre. Robert Jacques Belgrade isn't convinced. What kind of ghost murders a guard and sends threatening notes signed Belphegor? An ancient mystery surfaces in Jazz-Age Paris. Another thrilling case for the Chanticoq, king of detectives, a master of disguise. A new translation of Burns' classic of strangeness and crime. A tale of cunning disguise, narrow escapes, skullduggery, romance, terrible poetry, and dogs. I like it. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's funny. So this guy wrote a series of detective novels. This is just one of them, but this is the Phantomy one, which I've always wanted to read. They did make a movie out of this where Belphegor was a mummy ghost instead of the Phantom. It wasn't Phantomy at all, but... Speaking of Phantom, this is a children's version of Faust, the authorized edition of the Metropolitan Opera Guild. It's got illustrations, and it just breaks it down, gives you a little summary with little snippets of music and little pictures of the story of Faust. It smells old. How old are you? Paul found this at an old antique store. Paul's very into antiquing, and sometimes he brings me back very beautiful surprises. 1943. Speaking of which, he also brought me this. This is A Treasury of Grand Opera, edited by Henry W. Simon. Slipcase. Big paperback book. It's just sort of got summaries and music and everything you need for grand opera. If you're a singer and you want to learn some of the songs, a lot of songs in here. Man, if only I had this when I was in high school and obsessed with learning opera songs. Edited with the stories, history, and music described in detail by Henry W. Simon from 1946. This is just cool. This is a Victoriana photograph album, which got used, but wasn't actually used. It's empty, so you could make it further. If I actually had people to take pictures of and could print those pictures out and put them in an album, this is the album I would use. I love anything Victorian, and it's just so pretty. Sight and Sound Magazine's History of Horror edition. This is from last year, the History of Horror Part 2, and this one is on ghosts. Ghosts are not vampires, and they did do a vampires one. That was Part 1. I don't have that one. I would love that one, but I also like ghosts, so thank you for this. One of Sarah Waters' books, The Paying Guests. I love Sarah Waters. She writes Victorian gaslight gothic novels, even though she's a modern author. You may have heard of her from writing Fingersmith, the book that the movie The Handmaid was based on. And they're always gay. So this one, it's 1922 and London is tense. I have a few of her novels already, but not this one. So I was very lucky to find it in a used bookstore for $1. Add to my gothic collection. It's volume 4 of Lore Olympus. This came out recently. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Thank you. I have the other Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, and it will go in my set. I also usually get the regular editions. Actually, my father usually sends them to me for my birthday every year, but he did not send me volume 4 this year because it did not come out till July. My birthday is in May. So I'm going to have to get it some other way. But I love Lore Olympus. If you haven't read it, buy the books or read it online. It's a webtoon. You can read it for free. Read it on your phone. Vertical scrolling is best. I 105% recommend vertical scrolling phone reading. Even over the book. Like, it's pretty in the book. They formatted it out, but it looks so good when you read it on the phone in the format it was designed to be. A Hades and Persephone love story in a modernized, very colorful Olympus. I love this series so much. Beatrice Small's Hellion, a novel, which you sent to me with some vampire novels, but from the looks of it, it's not actually a vampire novel, which is why I'm including it now. A spectacular tale of erotic love, black magic, and wicked delights. She was called Belle from Hell. A fierce and indomitable as any man, Isabel of Langston rules the family lands with an iron hand after her father's death. But the brazen beauty meets her match in Hugh Fauconnier, bold knight and rightful Saxon heir to Langston Keep. By the king's hand, he has made her husband. Hugh's virile prowess reveals to Belle the delicious pleasures of the flesh as their turbulent days of verbal sparring melt into nights of erotic abandon. But a treacherous plot enslaves Hugh to the evil Vivienne de Bretagne, a sorceress whose sexual magic is as powerful as it is dark. Discovering the castle lair where her husband is enchanted, Belle is caught and rendered helpless by the twisted passion of Vivienne's brother Guy. But not even her captor's devious ecstasy can destroy her will to free her beloved Hugh. So it's an erotic novel about an enemies to lovers romance, but then they both get kidnapped by evil people and they're forced to have, such terrible, erotic, wonderful sex with the evil people, and then they have to find back and come in love again. Erotic novels tend to have a certain set of tropes. It reminds me a lot of the plot of Anne Rice's erotic novels, which I haven't read yet, but I'm going to read her erotic novels one of these days, the Sleeping Beauty series and her other erotic books. It sounds very similar to them, but in a high fantasy setting, which I guess the Sleeping Beauty ones are also. But this time, the female protagonist is a badass. If there are actually vampires in this, please let me know. I could not tell that there were at all from anything that I read about this book. A very cute and adorable collection of Bronte sisters poems. I love the Brontes, and this was so cute. I love tiny books. The Skull of the Marquis de Sade by Robert Bloch, author of Psycho. The person who sent this to me told me that it is not a vampire book, but is very vampire-y and has vampire themes and vampire-ish. And I was like, that counts. That belongs in the vampire library. I will take it. Terror at midnight, as a madman's skull comes to dreadful life. At high noon, as a murderer's ghost seeks new victims in the moonlight on a date with a vampire. Terror. In each of these weird tales by Robert Bloch, today's master of the monstrous. So I guess what I was told is that this vampire is not actually a vampire, and that's why it doesn't count as a vampire book. But vampire books where the vampire turns out to not actually be a vampire are still vampire books. So I probably should have included this early on in the video with the actual vampire books because it's vampire themes. It's about vampires, even if there's no actual supernatural vampire existing in the book. It still counts. A script for a play version of Phantom of the Opera that you have never heard of. From 1992, so obviously inspired by the Andrew Lloyd Webber version, came out shortly after that. It's an exciting new musical adaptation based on Gaston Leroux's classic tale. Book by Joseph Robinette, music by Robert Cole, lyrics by Robinette and Cole. This is a version that I have never seen or heard. I've heard the names Robinette and Cole before, but I don't know this version at all. Has this been staged anywhere that they made any videos of? I want to see it. If you've got a link to a production of this, please send it to me. A cast for 6 men, 4 women, flexible chorus of 4 to 6 or more. The exciting new musical adaptation goes to the essence of Gaston Leroux's classic love story, as opposed to that musical on Broadway. Ugh, we got the essence of Gaston Leroux's story. It weaves the lives of the singer Christine, her suitor Raoul, and the omnipresent opera ghost into a musical tapestry of love, mystery, and intrigue in 19th century France. Eminently singable and stageable, the musical requires neither operatic voices nor an unlimited production budget. This authentic Phantom provides a unique opportunity for amateurs and professionals alike. Take that, Andrew Lloyd Webber. A script for the play The Murder Room, a mystery farce in 3 acts by Jack Sharkey. I have never heard of this play before, so thank you for sending me play scripts. I love play scripts. I was a theater major in college. I cut my teeth on reading play scripts. It's called The Murder Room. I'm intrigued. Speaking of murder, we have a copy of Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, adapted for stage by Ken Ludwig, so the stage play version of Murder on the Orient Express, one of my favorite Agatha Christie books because I'm basic and I like her best books. Murder on the Orient Express, And Then There Were None, and Death Comes at the End. Obviously, the 3 best books she ever wrote. But I love all her books. I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. In the last play, we have Blithe Spirit by Noel Coward, a classic, but I didn't have a copy of Blithe Spirit before, so thank you. And a Stephen King book, or Stephen King short stories, Just After Sunset. This doesn't have any vampire stories in it, but you know what? Stephen King's in the family. He counts. Thank you. I will add this to my other Stephen King story collections. This is his collection from 2008. Now, I would like to take some time to talk to you about our Lord and Savior, Elvira. As you know, because I told you, I went to Romania in May with Elvira. Cassandra Peterson, the actor who has created Elvira and brought her into our lives, she hosted my tour of Romania. She wasn't in character as Elvira, she was Cassandra herself, but the tour was based around the movie Elvira's Haunted Hills because it was filmed in Romania. So in the tour, we went to a lot of filming locations. The director of the film, Sam Irvin, was also there. We discussed this in my interview with Sam Irvin, which if you haven't watched, it's on this channel. You should watch it. He is amazing. He has a lot to tell us about Elvira. We read Elvira's biography for Vampire Book Club last year, so we all know a lot about her. So this is the little itinerary of everything we did when I was in Romania, all the hotels we stayed at, all the places we went. And of course, while she was there, she autographed stuff. This is the copy of her autobiography with the Funko Pop on the cover that they gave us. She autographed it for me. It says, "To Elisa. Thanks so much for joining us in Transylvania. I hope you had as much fun as I did. XX Cassandra Peterson." I did have as much fun as you did. She also signed this picture of her with Sam Irvin, this very adorable picture of them together. He signed it too. She signed my copy of the hardback version. This is the one I read for our book club. And she's like, "Where should I sign it?" Because I only brought the dust jacket because I didn't want to carry the whole book all the way to Romania. So I brought the dust jacket. And she's like, "Where should I sign it? I should sign it on the boobs, right? I should sign it on the boobs." I was like, yeah, you should sign it on the boobs. So that's where she signed it. To Elisa, XX Elvira. And I also brought my copy of her movie Mistress of the Dark. I didn't have a copy of Haunted Hills, but I did have Mistress of the Dark. And she signed, "To Elisa, yours cruelly, Elvira," on the cover of my DVD. Elvira autographs. I also brought my Funko Pops, hoping she would sign them, but she was only signing like a limited amount of things, so I prioritized these. While I was in Transylvania, I picked up a lot of other books and things that I want to share with you. So I got some guidebooks of the places we went. This is Take Your Time, Transylvania. It's just a guidebook of the city. Beautiful. A guidebook specifically on Vlad Tepes, Dracula, Romania, Vlad the Impaler. He was everywhere. They market up him as the local icon and celebrity in Romania and Transylvania. Everywhere we went, his face was on everything. You could buy so much Vlad merch. I am not that big of a fan of him. I like the fictional Dracula. I don't like the actual historical Dracula. And I don't think that Bram Stoker ever meant for Dracula to be Vlad. He was just like inspired by those stories and created his own character. That was never meant to be that guy. So I don't love that connection, but I like the merchandise. This is the pamphlet for a adorable medieval monastery we went to that made me feel like I was in a Dungeons and Dragons game. Braun Castle, where I had dinner with Elvira and the rest of our tour group. Very cool castle. It's not actually connected to Dracula in any way, but they call it the Dracula Castle because it is the closest possible thing that fits what Bram Stoker wrote about in his book. It's not where Bram Stoker said Dracula's castle was, but it's very much like the way he describes it. So if you picked it up and put it in that spot, it could have been Dracula's castle. So the locals mark it as Dracula's castle and let tourists come to see it, and they have it all set up and restored, and it's just gorgeous. It was a wonderful tour. Guidebook just on Bucharest in general, because that's where we started and stayed on our trip. And of course, we went to Pelish Castle, which is a gorgeous German Renaissance-style castle that when Romania in history decided they wanted to try out having a king, a prince, a royal ruler, they wanted to try out a monarchy for a while. They heard it was a good system of government and they wanted to try it. They brought in this guy from Germany and were like, will you be our prince? Will you be our ruler? And he came and he was like, but only if I can build my biggest nerd fantasy Renaissance style castle. So this wasn't built in the time period of this design, but he was such a history nerd that he wanted to build this gorgeous castle. So he did, and it's full of all of his nerd collections. He collected suits of armor. It's like so much stuff. You could tell this guy was a big nerd, my kind of people. He made his dream home. Gorgeous. So I had to get this book just to remember all the gorgeous things. I took tons of pictures, but of course the official guidebook is going to have better pictures than I took. I didn't buy a lot of souvenirs when I was in Transylvania, but I had to get a couple things. Like my mom collects thimbles, so I got her some Transylvania thimbles. I got this spoon, decorative spoon from Bran Castle. It has a bat. It says Bran on it. It's got a picture of Vlad on the spoon, so you like lick your soup off his face, and it's got Transylvania written down the handle there. I had to get this absolutely ridiculous mug. It comes with a spoon. It's got like a landscape of Transylvania on it. But if you look on the back, the image of Dracula himself is a toy of Dracula that they took a picture of and put on this actual real life depiction of the castle. It says Romania, Dracula, and it's got some bats on it. But I just thought it was so ridiculous that it had a picture of a toy of Dracula superimposed over the background of the castles. It came with such a cute little spoon. This is a teacup, which I bought in the airport, and this was a brand called Kisses from Transylvania, and they had a few other things. Oh, actually, they say espresso cup and saucer. Excuse me. I'll use it for tea. And I wanted to get one of the things they were selling, so I decided to go for this cup and saucer because I'm fancy like that. Probably hard for you to see, but the saucer has all these like beautiful purple filigree things all over it. And the cute cup, Kisses from Transylvania. I will not let you go into the unknown alone, says Bram Stoker, quote, on the back. Oh, this was really cute. This was the one thing that I got that really had a Vlad Tepes thing going on. It is a magnet. It sort of has like a history of Transylvania going on inside. It's a little book magnet, just a refrigerator magnet that I had to get because he was on there. It's the most Dracula thing that they had at the Bucharest Parliament House when I was taking a tour. This is my souvenir from there. This pin, which is a pearl and diamond spider, which when I saw it in Romania and Transylvania, I just had to have it. I have my like official spider brooch from Transylvania now. Oh, actually this shirt I'm wearing, I bought this in Transylvania, this top. This is official Transylvanian attire. This is what they wear there. And an enamel pin that says, oh, Romania, with the O is in a heart. It's in the shape of a bat. Just a little thing I had to get for myself to remember my wonderful trip by, my wonderful time with Elvira Cassandra Peterson in the Romanian countryside, in Transylvania itself, at Dracula's castle. Such a good trip. Such a fun trip. I talked about it in my Vampire Book Club from May, I guess. So it was after I got back on my trip. And you can hear all about my trip if you go and watch the video in the live stream section of this channel. So make sure you switch over to that tab. Other vampire things I have to share with you. So when I went to Transylvania, it was right after my birthday, and my mother had given me this Haunted Mansion patterned backpack for my birthday, and this was the bag that I carried around all of Transylvania. This was my travel purse. Thanks, Mom. Love the Haunted Mansion wallpaper pattern. I don't think this is official Disney merchandise. I think this is just like a knockoff thing from Amazon, but I love it. Oh, this. So you gave me a while back a Dracula Lego set, and I never built it, but finally my fledgling spawn was just like, please just let me build it. I was like, no, it's mine. I'm going to build it myself. So I finally just let him build it. And this is what it looks like built. Dracula's got a little bat in his hand. His arms move. He's got his eyebrows. It's really cute. So now that can sit, it can join right up here with my Funko Pops. Be part of the party. This is a vampire nutcracker. I just found him last week at TJ Maxx, Marshall's Home Goods, one of those places. I had to have him. It's one of the Halloweenies I bought when I was out Halloween shopping for the season in July, as you have to do. He's going to crack all your vampire nuts. This it's empty. I already drank it. This is a beer can, but it's called Vampire Walrus. And this is from a local brewery, Noda Brewing Company, which is downtown from where I live. And the picture on it is just so great. It's you got this walrus very stately looking walrus with fangs in a vampire cape holding a artichoke? No, it's hops, because it's beer. That's right, it's hops. It's got bats all over it. It is an Imperial India Pale Ale, and I usually am not an IPA person at all, but I had to make an exception for Vampire Walrus, and it was Imperial, which means it's 8.3% ABV, which helped a lot. I didn't love it, but, I didn't hate it, which is surprising for an IPA for me. So if you are an IPA fan, I definitely recommend Vampire Walrus from Noda Brewing Company. The can is just so cute. This is a ghost candle. It's just a candle, a ghost face on it, which Paul gave me. I was like, yes, I'll put that in my video. But when he went looking for Halloweenies earlier in July, and we couldn't find any of this. Oh, he went to IKEA. That's right. He's obsessed with IKEA. And this was the only Halloween thing they had. So he's like, well, I brought you on the one Halloween thing they had. So yes, my little ghost candle. This is a cool bracelet my friend gave me for my birthday. It's got a copper plate on it with a stamp that says vampire. A leather cuff bracelet. Another thing I got from TJ Maxx. This is a mug for drinking my tea out of. Skullflowers. Have you heard of this game? It's called I Am Death Now. Humans, pain, death. It's a family game. It's got the Grim Reaper on it. And the Grim Reaper is just as important to me as vampires are. So I have to know about this game. Paul picked it up at an estate sale where someone was selling a bunch of old games that they didn't want anymore. You are student deaths, trying to earn your official death license. This is your death certification examination, DCE. To pass your DCE, you must use the 5 pain categories: physical, psychological, emotional, existential, and supernatural, to successfully kill all 5 of your test subjects before the rest of your classmates. Do you have what it takes to become death? Oh, I wish I had friends that would play this game with me. And the design is just so cute. It's hard to see, but it has like little skulls and scythes embossed all over the box. These are really cool. My friend sent me these for my birthday. These are from the costumes of the Broadway version of Phantom of the Opera, which closed in April, as we discussed previously. Very sad. So I guess when they closed it, they sort of cut up the costumes they didn't need anymore, and they were selling little swaths of fabric. So this is the fabric from Christine's dressing gown, and this is the fabric from the Phantom's suit. So I have little pieces of Broadway with me always in very adorable bottles. This is a candle holder that Paul got me. It's got spider legs, a little tea light in there. This cool Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera pin from Scary Mary's Pins. It's an enamel pin. It's very cool stickers. We got Grim Reaper, Abigail Larson design stickers. We got just some of her beautiful designs, the vampire ones. Fangs. Ghosty. And then this spider pin, which you sent me, wanting to show up the other one, just very blingy black and diamond spider pin. She could sit right there. One of you sent me a fishing lure. It is a Black Widow Spider Phantom fishing lure. And it took me forever to figure out what this was because you didn't explain it in the letter. You were just like, oh yeah, here's a phantom lure thing. It was like a lure. What kind of lure? Oh, for fishing because fish eat spiders. But it's also just really cool. Thank you for my Black Widow. And when I was visiting family, they had like a little festival thing going on for 4th of July where they had all these stalls selling arts and stuff. And I bought my very first set of D&D dice that is actually mine, that's not borrowed from a friend. Usually when I play D&D, I just use D&D Beyond roll dice on my phone. So I never actually owned my own dice. And the game I play is Curse of Strahd, of course. Been playing that for a very long time. Same characters, same campaign. But these dice, they are blood red with gold on them. And each one, the highest number on it, has a bat. Bat on every single one, except for the D4. That doesn't have a bat. We don't talk about D4. I know you can't see these. They're so tiny, and this video is so wide. But I own D&D dice with bats. They had one, this was a set called Bat, but they had one with a set called Vampire. And instead of a bat, it was a skull with fangs. And I almost got that just because it was the vampire set. But I'm like, you know what? The bat set is more vampire-y to me than a skull. So I went with bats. And I like the blood red color. They're sparkly. An old 1990s vinyl Velcro Goosebumps wallet. Do you remember these kinds of wallets? This is so retro. Oh my God, Goosebumps. That was my childhood. Thank you. A very gorgeous bookmark, just called Vampire Bookmark. She is sparkly. She's got blood going down her teeth. She looks very dim. We're like, oopsie, I ate you. Holding a rose. Very pretty. Thank you. A glass coffin, which actually came from Michael's I guess you're supposed to put like flower arrangements in it or something. It was in the Halloween floral section. But I had to have a glass coffin, and all the Halloween stuff is always on super sale right when Michael's like starts doing Halloweens. I guess, you could like put someone you're jealous of in there after you give her a poison apple and you want her to like get out of the way for a while. I don't know what I'm going to put in my glass coffin. Something spooky, to be sure. And the last, but perhaps the cutest thing that you sent me was this bat puppet. Oh my God, I love her. She's going to be my new friend. Hi, Maven. I love you too. Aw, I love you too, Batty. Friends. New YouTube show sidekick? If only I had a friend that could puppeteer it for me. We may be lonely in the vampire library lair, but we have our books. We have much to read and many things to keep us company. You know you love it. So if you are curious about any of these books or things I shared with you, I have added all that I can to the list that is in the link in the description of this video. Click the list, click the past list, see all the things I've ever talked about in my vampire library videos, so you can make notes and decide if you want to find them somewhere. You don't have to buy them from Amazon. Obviously, we don't all like to support the Bezos, so you can use it to look them up elsewhere. There are some things that I unfortunately couldn't include, like the things that only exist in Transylvania. Like this book was kind of expensive at the gift shop, and I'm like, okay, you buy it, you support the gift shop. But I was kind of curious, so I looked on Amazon to see what they were selling for. It wasn't there. It doesn't exist. You can't get this anywhere except that gift shop in Transylvania. So yeah, I'm very glad I picked it up. If any of these books I've shared with you interest you for reading together with me, go into my Discord server to the Book Club Suggestions channel and make a note of it, mention it there, or leave a comment here on this video and say, I want to read that book for next book club, and I will put it in the running. We will decide together what book to read next month for Vampire Book Club, and if the book you like doesn't make it next month, then the following month. We have many months and many vampire books to read, and we will get through all of them. Or die trying. One of these days, Vampire Book Club is going to be canceled on account of that I'm dead now. It will be the last month. Thank you for joining me in the Vampire Library. I am the Maven of the Eventide. If you would like to help support this channel, support the book club, support the Discord server, support all my other videos at the same time, please join my Patreon. $2 a video gets you first look, first access to the videos before they go public. It's very special. $10 a video gets your name in the credits like the lovely people you are about to see right now. Good night.